Section 2.4 The Feast of First Fruits. The Feast of First Fruits is the third feast that was given by Yahweh. It also occurs in the spring and lasts for 1 day. There is no set date for this feast. It is celebrated the day after the first Saturday Sabbath following Passover, or more simply, the first Sunday after Passover. This means that it occurs during the week-long feast of unleavened bread. On this day, a sheaf of grain from the early barley harvest is lifted up and waved before God. No person is permitted to eat any of the spring harvest until God receives this wave offering, in recognition of his provision, and to ask for his blessing on the coming harvest. This is the day that Jesus rose from the dead. We can be certain that Jesus rose on the Feast of First Fruits because it is celebrated on the first day following the Sabbath after Passover. In the Gospels, we read that Mary Magdalene had to wait until the Sabbath was over to go and properly prepare Jesus' body for burial. I should say Sabbaths, because in 27 AD there were 2 Sabbaths back to back. In John 19 we read, "Then the Jews, because it was preparation, begged Pilate that their legs, the prisoners' legs, might be broken, and that they might be taken away, so that the body should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day." A high day was one of the Sabbaths that Yahweh instructed his people to observe above and beyond the regular weekend Sabbaths. It is likely that the Jews did not want the bodies left on the crosses because the Sabbath was going to be longer than usual. A high day meant that there could easily be 2 Sabbaths in a row if the high Sabbath occurred on a Friday. According to lunar charts, the moon is how the Hebrew months are determined. This is indeed what happened in the year 27 AD, the year that Jesus likely died. Due to the Sabbath on the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread on the 15th, and the regular Saturday Sabbath, Jesus would have had 3 full nights in the tomb before he rose on the 3rd day. Table 2.2 Jesus' Death and Resurrection. On the table, each 24-hour period is broken up into evening and day. The Jewish days are in blue and pink, and the Western days are in purple and white. You can see how they overlap. We begin on Wednesday in the evening. This was when Jesus celebrated the Last Supper with his disciples. It is the 5th day of the week and the 14th day of Nisan. The feast is Passover. The next morning, Thursday, though it seems like a new day to us, it was still the 5th day of the week and the 14th day of Nisan, and still the feast of Passover. This is when Jesus was crucified. Next we look at Thursday evening. This is the first night that Jesus spent in the tomb. It is the beginning of the 6th day of the week and the 15th of Nisan. This is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and today is a high Sabbath when no work can be done. Moving to Friday, we see that Jesus spends his first day in the tomb. This is still the 6th day of the week and the 15th of Nisan. It is still the Feast of Unleavened Bread and a high Sabbath. Friday evening begins Jesus' second night in the tomb. It is now the 7th day of the week and the 16th day of Nisan. It's the Feast of Unleavened Bread still, and now we are celebrating the regular Saturday Sabbath during that week. Saturday morning begins Jesus' second day in the tomb. It is still the 7th day of the week and the 16th of Nisan and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This is the last part of the Saturday Sabbath during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Saturday evening is Jesus' 3rd night in the tomb. It is the 1st day of the week in the Jewish calendar and the 17th day of Nisan. Because this is the Sunday after the Sabbath Saturday, it is also the Feast of First Fruits and not a Sabbath. Therefore Mary could go to the tomb, which she did on Sunday morning, the 3rd day. This is still the 1st day of the week, the 17th day of Nisan, and the Feast of First Fruits. And this is how Jesus completes 3 full nights and 3 days in the tomb to rise on the 3rd day. When Mary arrived at the tomb on the 1st day of the week, the stone was already rolled away. Jesus had risen from the dead on the 3rd day, which was the 1st day following the Saturday Sabbath after Passover, and hence the Feast of First Fruits. He was the first to rise from the dead, and is therefore literally the first fruit of God's harvest. Just as the sheaf of early grain was lifted up and waved before Yahweh on the Feast of First Fruits, Jesus was lifted up in his resurrection when he ascended to the Father after seeing Mary. By doing so, he secured our place in the coming harvest. In 1 Corinthians 15 we read, "But now Christ has risen from the dead, and has become the firstfruit of those who slept. For since death is through man, the resurrection of the dead is also through a man. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ all will be made alive, but each in his own order. Christ the firstfruit, and afterward they who are Christ's at his coming. And then is the end, when he delivers the kingdom to God, even the Father, when he makes to cease all rule and all authority and power. For it is right for him to reign until he has put all the enemies under his feet. The last enemy made to cease is death." Before I close this section on the Feast of First Fruits, I want to let you know that many people believe that it was actually a Wednesday or Friday that Jesus must have died on. This is because with calculated calendar dates, the 14th of Nisan can never happen on a Thursday. Conversely, if you follow the lunar cycle as Israel did at the time of the crucifixion, it can, and in fact it did in 27 AD. For more information on this, including the NASA lunar dates for 27 AD, see the section titled The Date of Passover in 27 AD in Appendix 4. I struggle with a Wednesday or Friday crucifixion because, although you may be able to squeeze 3 days out of a Friday date, you cannot have 3 nights with a Wednesday or Friday crucifixion. And in Matthew 12:40, it definitely states that Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights. However, this is not the take-home message here. The differing opinions on the weekday can detract from the most significant point, which is that whether it was a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, Jesus died on Passover and rose on the Feast of First Fruits.